What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Run Pure Sports Week 14 preview channel. And as the saying goes, some things never change, and the Jefferson Thielen conversation is as heated as ever. My boys, Title, Mangone, going to battle over their boys here. Title, what's going on? How was Week 13 for you?
I guess I got to stop. I didn't know I got man going this rattled. Unfortunately, it can't even be a conversation anymore because one is unfortunately injured probably for the rest of the year. So that conversation's over, but it was a fun week. I actually got to play Justin Jefferson in cash on FanDuel, which I haven't done that in a long time. And now with Thielen out, I assume that Jefferson might be the best receiver in football to start playing. I mean, Cooper Kupp, he continues to do it. There's Devontae, but without Thielen, Jefferson is just getting all the work. It was a fun week. It was profitable. Sunday night was not profitable though, and last night stunk over here too. So I'm glad the main slates did good.
Yeah, these showdown games have not been all that entertaining from a DFS perspective, at least for me, and they haven't gone well. But we'll bounce back for sure. Mangone, what's going on? Week 14 here already. How did Week 13 treat you?
Week 13 was good. Definitely one of the better weeks. So I was happy about that. Played some Jefferson everywhere. So that was good.
The real question is, did you play Thielen?
No, because it wasn't a good spot for him. If you read
the week he gets injured, you don't play him. So
yeah, because it wasn't as good of a spot because I was reading up on stuff. And yeah, he struggles. Thielen struggles against those defenses. It's just not, of course, that's not why he didn't score stuff, right? Of course, when you get the Justin Jefferson 35% target share, like it's lit, right? Like it was obviously good times.
Well, Thielen got hurt like first possession or first catch. He was dead right away.
Yeah, he was dead early, which it's so funny. I actually thought about double stacking it because I was like, the problem with this week was, there were so many good plays. It was like hard to find a bad play. And like, I like the idea of like the double stack, but then I couldn't find a run back with the Lions, man. Like I know Jamal Williams was the run back, but like it just didn't fit a lot of what I had a lot of trouble building, even just like one team, like single entry GBP. I had trouble building a team that I love that was like also unique. So I was trying to make it like just unique in a little bit of ways. And I know there was tons of ways to do it, but I definitely struggled with tournaments this week. And it was like one of my best tournament weeks, which was kind of funny. So overall though, it was a fun time. Yeah, I'm excited to keep going. And I think as the year goes on, I've said it a lot. Like we know guys that just become like in extreme situations that are going to absolutely crush, right? Jonathan Taylor's one of them. I mean, he's just going to pound every single week. It's just simple. Cooper Kupp, he's in a situation where, I mean, it felt like he did terrible and he still like had a massive game. Then you also have now guys go down like all season long. Like now you have this situation with Thielen and Jefferson. Jefferson at 35%. 35% target share is just going to crush every single week. We don't have him on the main slate. He'll be on the showdown, but overall with players just going down and like things getting more clear and teams just mailing it in, I think it's going to be really good for the chalk guys. I think you want to have some chalk type constructions, and in the Milli maker this week, yeah, you're gonna see. We're gonna break it down, and there were some really good chalk plays and some simple pivots that kind of made a lot of sense.
Yeah, we're gonna, before we get into the preview, we're gonna break down the Milli maker winner as well. But yeah, I mean, to your point, I think another reason why I'm looking forward here to the end of the season is the added playoff spots and a lot of teams still in contention. So, at this time in previous seasons, you see a lot of dead teams and a lot of teams that are out of contention. There's no teams running away right now. These teams, it appears, are going to have something to play for all the way through. So definitely looking forward to the end of the season. We have a lot of information at our hands now to make good decisions for our DFS lineups. But yeah, the one thing that I'm going to take away from last week, a lot of teams in contention, which will add some interest for DFS purposes. Title, any thoughts there?
Yeah, no, I love the extra playoff week. Someone in chat who was Alex Hahn, I believe, just said the NFL. Yeah, Alex Hahn, not many NFL weeks left. Season goes by so fast. It really does. The NFL, I mean, it's my favorite. I think it's a lot of people's favorite. The once a week Sundays are so much fun, but it's about to end. We have playoffs though. But yeah, Justin Jefferson, Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp. You just know the guys that are so safe with Chris Godwin this week. Like certain plays, we're going to review the Milli Maker lineup, but you can eat chalk in football, get different in one spot, two spots, a double tight end when no one's doing it, stuff like that. And yeah, you have to eat chalk in some football because there's just so many, there's certain guys that are just in their own category. with their upside they have, and just keep jamming them in. If you keep playing Jonathan Taylor every week, Justin Jefferson every week, certain guy Cooper Kupp every week, you're going to be printing and up at the end of the year. So we got a really good baseline for the week 13 you said this is 14, is it?
Yeah, 14, week 14 already. And I will say, I don't want to bash these sites too much, but just pulling up, this is like the first time I'm looking at pricing. Shame on DraftKings. I mean, just awful price. I don't know how deep you guys have.
I haven't looked. Last week was like a 1v1 or 2v2. Like,
it might be even worse on DraftKings. I mean, I just started looking at it. It's just disappointing. I mean, some of these big name guys aren't on the slate. I get that, but you need to adjust the other guys up a little bit to make it interesting. We'll talk about it when we get there, but it doesn't look good in terms of the pricing. In regards to the Milli Maker, though, last week, like I said, we're going to review that this week before we get into the preview. You look at it and it's pretty straightforward. The team that won the Milli. I mean, so you go to the top. They played Minshew at 4K. Obviously, a great play, 4K quarterback. Not the typical backup quarterback. This guy started in the NFL and has had solid results in terms of winning games and for DFS purposes. Played Sony Michel, 21%. Michel obviously went off. They were dedicated to giving him all the run that he could get, and he took advantage of it, got that nice little 25-yard run at the end to hit the bonus. And he played Jamal Williams, a 9 spot. Jamal Williams, 9 fantasy points, and still wins the Milli. Goes to show that you don't need, massive scores all around. Had the nuts, though, at wide receiver. Justin Jefferson, titles boy, 38. I don't see Thielen in this lineup. That's kind of ironic, right? I mean, they're both such good plays. No Thielen, but Jefferson's in here at 38.6 fantasy points.
He got hurt in the first 2 plays.
Oh, that's why. All right, I forgot.
Here's the other thing too. I love the people who are like, this is always my favorite. Someone's like, man, dude, I knew Justin Jefferson was a great play. No kidding. If he would have been 1,000% owned if everyone knew Thielen was dying on the first play. That's always my favorite thing. But
but you need a Thielen. Deontay Johnson just continues to get absolutely peppered. I mean, their team is a disaster. 33.5, and I think he dropped a long touchdown too. I mean, he could have had a monster game. Chris Godwin, the 15 catch game, 6.6K. I have no clue why 6.6K. I'm sure he's not much more this week. Yep, correct. 7.1K. You needed Kittle, massive game, 2 touchdowns, 42 fantasy points, and then Goddard. So double tight end ships this week. It's a lineup build that a lot of people don't really go to, double tight end, but man, these tight ends crush, not only in Showdown. Tight ends have done well all season long. You needed both these guys to win, and then Rams defense kind of, I'm assuming, maybe last piece in, but he played 3 wide receivers that are, I think pretty straightforward plays. Sony Michel and Jamal Williams, very popular. Minshew was the punt quarterback. And I have to imagine if this wasn't earlier, if we knew all week that Minshew was going to play, I feel like his ownership would have been quite a bit higher, only 12%. Although quarterback, it always kind of gets spread out. We talk about that. And then double tight end. I mean, it's all good plays. I mean, nothing crazy off the wall. Put a bunch of good plays together. No correlation, right? I mean, really, I'm not seeing many correlated plays.
He's got Minshew to Goddard, Justin Jefferson secondary with Jamal, and then he went to Michel, Rams defense too. So he's got a good correlation in there.
Yeah, so we got Michel.
Just no run back.
Eagles play
the Jets. So he had no run back in his main stack, which the Jets, we talked about it. There's certain spots like that, but he has a secondary with Jefferson, Jamal, and then the defense running back he threw in there too.
Yeah. So I guess there is a little bit, but no run back. And that's something we always talk about. If you're single stacking like you did here, I don't think you necessarily need a run back. That opinion differs not only amongst the run peer community, but just DFS players in general. Mangone, give me your first take here of this lineup. To me, pretty straightforward.
Yeah, he also had Jamal and Jefferson, right? That single stack too in there. So he had a lot of correlation. I looked at that Viking stack a ton and was trying to figure out the best way to do it. And I also thought this Vikings defense is it's just absolute disaster. And that's why I like Jamal a lot. So I like what he did there. I don't think you need the correlation always with the run back if the team is just absolute garbage. But obviously it was perfectly fine. And good luck figuring out which jet it's going to be, right? I mean, I just don't think you always need it every single time. I do think the double tight end thing was great. And because it wasn't just because if you go double tight end, that makes you unique. It's like everyone was playing this 2.7K tight end, which sure, he's in a really good role. He was a cash lock, but I mean, in tournaments, if he's just going to sink so many lineups, if he doesn't do well and the other guys do well. So that's what we talked about a ton. We talked about that. If you want to try and separate the gap at the tight end position with a guy that can just be a bullet and just basically get ahead by, 20 fantasy points and just say, find other ways in other spots to catch up to me. That's a great way to do it. And he just basically played the double tight end to leverage it completely. So, and that was the one small thing he did. The rest, he just kind of played some correlation, ate chalk, and called it a day. It was definitely, the chalk I felt was kind of due to do really well too, because it felt like a lot of those can't miss spots were absolutely crushing. And the best part about it was the can't miss play of the week did miss, and then everything else crushed. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it is funny. Yeah, the tight end that everyone plays. Really, one of the only, I guess Jamal Williams too. Those two are really the only two that essentially kind of busted. Title. Any thoughts here on this lineup?
Yeah, you Mangone, and you hit it on the head. Foster Moreau was the big part in this week. The whole week is just a stone lock in cash games. 2.7, you can pay up wherever. And not only did he then fade that and pay a little up at tight end, he just went 2 tight ends, so they knew it would be really low owned. Very sharp. George Kittle, he hasn't really had it this year. He's been hurt, but we've seen George Kittle in the past have this kind of upside. He was in the 6K range where everyone went 3 running backs too. So you got a pivot there. The Goddard Minshew stack, you didn't need a run back. If you did run it back, he ran back with Elijah Moore went off too. So the run back would have worked, but guessing on the jet on a slate like this was so much value. I think that was good. He got wide receiver 1, Justin Jefferson, wide receiver 1, Deontay Johnson, wide receiver 1, Chris Godwin. I think that makes all the sense. 2 chalk running backs that were starting with someone hurt makes a ton of sense. Good lineup. He left 300, and that was probably because defenses and running back, they correlate a little bit if you have that money. Instead of jamming in a random defense for the extra 300, you correlate a little bit. If they're running the ball a lot, they're going to be up. Other team has to pass a lot. You have more opportunities for points. So I think the lineup made a lot of sense, and he won by about 2 points with 9 from Jamal Williams, which is pretty crazy in a field like this.
And one last thing to mention too, someone said the single stacks, no run backs have been winning this season. I think weeks like this, the single stacks, and you could do a run back, but just single stacks in general make more sense because it did feel like, I felt like tournaments were really hard this week because there felt like there were so many can't miss spots. There wasn't just one can't miss spot, and then if the game busts, everything falls. And when that happens and you have games where there's everything can just absolutely bust completely. Let's say if that Cowboys Chiefs game and it just tanks, that's when I think the double stacks are a lot better, where you run a bunch of guys together, because what happens is you find a low owned game that people aren't on. If that goes off and the other one busts, you have to do less guessing. And even if one of your receivers, let's say you run a good example is the Steelers and Vikings. Let's say you ran a Ben Roethlisberger, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Justin Jefferson stack. Well, let's say that Chase Claypool only got you 9, but Deontay went for 30. When all of that chalk busts on one game and it completely just goes down, I think that's where you can really gain a lot of leverage against the field. But when there's so many spots that are just so good, it's the single stacking makes a little more sense in my opinion. Does that all add up to you guys?
Yeah, no, I think it does. But the one thing I've noticed is when these teams are playing just crappy teams, you're seeing these wins with single stacks and no run backs. You got a quarterback, a pass catcher, and no run back. I agree with whoever put that in the chat. It seems like it's winning this year. And I think for me personally, a lot of it has to do with the soft pricing, because you're able to play those other studs at the positions, and you just need these guys. You've seen it every week. There's been a group of guys that you need because they're just going off. And these are elite players that just have price tags that are way too cheap. No matter what, the volume that Chris Godwin gets in that offense, I know he didn't do well the week before, but Chris Godwin should never be 6.6K. It just doesn't make sense. And I don't know. I think that's part of the reason where we're seeing these teams where you're just winning without run backs, because if you're not having these super underpriced superstars, you're just kind of drawing dead. So I don't know. It's unfortunate, and it's the same this week. But yeah, go ahead.
You just see, so this guy only built 3 lineups. I assume all hand built, and you can kind of tell. You see that he has Kittle he has Kittle and Goddard mixed up. Mangone and Hoop, you guys see that? He has Kittle at tight end when it should be Goddard because he locked early, and then Kittle late. So, and you can tell that was he only had 3 lineups, and that Deontay Johnson touchdown at the end was I think a 9-figure swing. I mean, looking at some of these lineups. Because that was what 9 points he had on his last touchdown at the end. Not a lot of these lineups up top had Deontay Johnson, so it made Tambo a lot of money in the King of the Beach, and that made this guy $1 million. At a pretty crazy swing.
Yeah, the roster construction police would have a field day with K-Land 304.
Yeah, people in chat were talking about it too, and I noticed it too, but it's funny.
Before we get to the preview, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It helps us to continue to bring you guys these shows free on a daily basis. In terms of the members never win segment, I'm not going one by one. We're going with the big lump sum because I just got the number from our guy that handles the newsletters here. And the official number from last week was 2.25 million, I believe, in winnings 1 week at Run Pure Sports. Just massive, life-changing money being won on a regular basis. It's incredible. I mean, just absolutely incredible. I believe it's $2.25 million in winnings over the last 7 days. Just absolutely crazy. Congratulations to all the winners, multiple sports, NFL, NBA, Showdown, NASCAR, MMA, just big winners across the industry on multiple sports, multiple sorts of contests. So like I said, congratulations to all the winnings. We're going to keep that momentum going this week.
The impressive part about that, there's like no Milli winner in there, right? There's not like a skewed like, oh, we had 2 Milli winners or something.
Yeah.
Like
the 550 a little bit, but other than that,
helps a little.
But that's the only one, right? I mean, that was the crazy part. I was trying to think back, like, okay, like who was the guy that like carried the load here on this? And I don't know. It felt like a real team effort, which again, very impressive and just goes to show, the content can work if you just get in the Discord, you sit there and grind, and hard work pays off. So
Mangone is frozen. Oh, there you go. I'm back at it. All right.
I thought it was going to be me.
Mangone, I do want to stick with you. Any significant news that we're kind of waiting on this week in terms of injuries? I haven't dug super deep into the injury stuff, but anything kind of stand out that we're going to be waiting on this week?
No, I guess the stuff that stands out, like looking at the slate overview, just quickly looking, as we have a Bucks and Bills game. It's the 4:25 game, and that's in Tampa too, so we don't have to worry about the weather. We won't be on a weather watch, at least you hope so. So I think that's going to be one of the games that people want to try and get into their lineups, of course. And then you talked about those lopsided games. We have that Chargers Giants. That's going to be one of those lopsided games. And then Chiefs and Raiders feels like another one of those lopsided games that could be out there. So there's a lot to like. I don't think there's a ton of domes on this slate, which that's always important to look at, especially this time of year. There's going to be some nasty games. Javonte Williams is probably going to be a great play against the Lions. That's going to be at home too. And the Lions, how bad they are against the run. So yeah, not a lot of dome games this week. So I think that's definitely an interesting thing to mention, because that's always very important in DFS. It feels like the dome games get targeted up a ton, and that might even increase the tournament ownership on that Brady and the Bills stack. Like, it just does feel like everyone's going to go to that game, man. Like it's going to be a good one.
Yeah. Title, anything kind of stand out to you before we get into the position by position first look?
No, Miles Sanders, he hurt his ankle again last game. Oh, yeah. He left a little early, so I don't know. Like Boston Scott's there. There's Gainwell too. We've seen that situation. It's messy, so I'm not even sure what the pricing will need it, but that's something to look at. Logan Thomas, it said likely tore his ACL. So Washington always runs tight ends regardless who it is. So next man, Bates, I think, is the next guy up. I don't know his price tag, but that's another injury. And then Kenyon Drake broke his ankle, and Josh Jacobs has been getting all the work too. So again, just haven't looked really at pricing yet, but Jacobs had a really good game the past couple games. If he's low owned, he'll make sense in tournaments, but you get in the workload.
All right, let's hop into quarterback position. We'll start on DraftKings. And like I said, first look for me, pricing just super soft, like overall, just very, very soft all around. not really anyone to spend all the way up on it at some of these positions. So I think it's going to be another week where you're going to see a ton of overlap, especially in cash games. I mean, the overlap in cash games last week was through the roof. This week, I think it could be the same. And obviously a lot's going to change throughout the week. I mean, we saw it last week, tons of injury stuff later in the week that kind of shifts our focus. Last week at this time, we weren't talking about Sony Michel. Come Sunday morning, that's all we were talking about, Sony Michel. So a lot can change. It's just like a first look looking at pricing. And the first thing that stands out to me on DraftKings, Big T's boy, Taysom Hill, 5.6K for some dumbass reason against the Jets. I mean, facing the Jets, he's going to run the ball a ton. Looked decent passing at times last week. Just a high floor with his running, and kind of started out slow running the ball, but as that game went on, he kind of started taking over a little bit more running. So he's going to be very popular at 5.6K. One of those situations where you don't necessarily need to have a pass catcher with him. Cam Newton is 5.4K. I prefer Taysom over Cam for sure. Justin Herbert's always a safe option. I mean, 7.1K. They're going to score a lot of points against the Giants. And you have like Mahomes and Brady at the top range if you want to go there. Mahomes at 8K. Mahomes a little scary because of what we've seen from the Chiefs the last few games, where if they get a lead, they're okay kind of just burying teams with the run. Their defense has been playing great. They're okay taking wins like that, which has not been the case in the past, but they're fine winning 13-3 ball games like the other night, where in the past they're probably trying to score 30. So different team. Tom Brady 7.6K, Josh Allen 7.8K. So we have spends and we have some really good cheap plays. Mangone, talk to me here about the.
I got one thing first. Taysom Hill, I forgot about it, but he had mallet finger, or like he hit his finger on the helmet in Thursday. But they said it was kind of the same thing Russell had, and it's mallet finger. Second time we've seen the injury. Russ had surgery. I know they brought it up. I haven't heard anything since then, but I think that's something to monitor too, because the price is good if he does play. He's a runner, so I wouldn't be too worried about it, but I don't know what the Saints are going to do. The
official update was that he's not going to need surgery, and they kind of wrapped it last game and he played. I mean, maybe Taysom's just a tougher dude than Russell Wilson. I mean, that could be it,
I didn't know he was going to play. I mean, he definitely is tougher. He's one tough dude, but I didn't know that. So I'm expecting him to play then. I didn't hear that.
Yeah. It sounds like he's going to continue on. I mean, it's a big opportunity for him. I can't imagine he's going to want to miss it. Yeah. So if the doctors say he can play, he's definitely going to play. Sounds like he plans on being out there. Mangone, thoughts at quarterback on DK?
Yeah, hard to ignore the Taysom Hill thing. This is terrible. I hate weeks like this where it's like, oh, we gotta I hate just when they make me play someone, right? Like, I don't want to be forced to play him, but I think he's perfectly fine. FanDuel at least said, hey, think a little bit about it at 7.7K, but they just made so many mistakes, FanDuel, right? I mean, with their quarterback pricing, the issue I have with what FanDuel's doing is it's just not hard to get Josh Allen, right? Of course, against the Bucs. Depends what you think of Josh Allen here against them. You can make cases for Brady being a really good play. You can make cases for Josh Allen being a good one.
You know what our buddy over here is going to say. So I mean,
I don't know for sure this week.
Oh, okay, all right.
Oh, Mangone's right.
I had a feeling he maybe wouldn't for sure, just because Brady is in an amazing spot, right? I mean, you just can't ignore it. And it always depends if the 600 matters. I don't know what the rest of the slate's looking like. Would you go Herbert or Josh Allen? You'd probably go Allen. Would you go Brady or Allen? I'm thinking about it, right? It's at least the conversation.
There's also Lamar there too.
Yes.
I'm a big Lamar guy, but he's under 8K this week. You don't see that very often.
Yeah.
Yep. Our RB1 at QB is never a bad idea. So, he is not looked good, but throwing the ball, but he's looked a lot better running it, obviously. And he had only 8 rush attempts last week, but I don't know. I'd have to look into against the Browns, what's going to happen, obviously. And you can get concerned that game can kind of be a grind out game and just a lot of clock being killed. That's the one thing, man, that's so great about Brady games is the way they interact, right? You have Brady throwing so much, and if it is an incomplete pass, what happens? Well, if it's an incomplete pass, the clock stops. Or sometimes Brady, he takes what they give you, and if they give you stuff towards the sidelines, they just run out of bounds. And the clock just doesn't kill as much in those games. That's like one of the key things with playing those Brady games. So that's just worth mentioning. I think that's pretty important. I agree with you, Hoop, like no Cam Newton for me. I'm out on that. Talking about the same thing I said, like the clock being killed. Do the Raiders just try and kill a clock with Josh Jacobs and just kind of run on the Chiefs? That's the one issue I've had with the Chiefs this year is it does feel like they can't get enough stops on defense. And even though their defense isn't good, they're just not giving up big plays. They're kind of like the Chargers. They're giving up short yardage stuff. And that's one of the Chargers' problems too. And they give up so much short yardage stuff that sometimes they just don't have the ball enough where it can be a problem. Now, if for some reason the Chargers play so efficiently and get up and the game shoots out, then the other team's passing a ton and the game is just lit. It's just a great game to be a part of and you're happy. But that is one of the fears with some of these games. And the one thing that's not really a fear is I don't really see them pounding the rock all game long against the Bills. Now, maybe Tom decides to just change up the approach and run a little bit more with Leonard Fournette and then pass like a bunch of out routes or just a lot of short yardage stuff.
I don't know. After last night, they might change their approach a little bit because the Bills, the guy passed 3 times and they were able to pick up first down after first down after first down on the ground. And know the team's just running the ball. I mean, they might just pound them. It's possible.
Might. I mean, that's the big thing to think about with tournaments, Hoop. Because I thought that same thing when I first looked at the game, like, well, Tom always passes, right? But yeah, Tom also does whatever the smartest thing is. And if Tom knows the run is going to work and the run is working and they're winning, he's going to keep doing it. Now, if they're down, you know what Tom's going to do? He's going to put the ball in his hands and get the job done. But he does take what is given to him. And you can make an argument that, they could pound the ball a little bit. If everyone's on Brady stacks this week in tournaments, man, give me Leonard Fournette. He's just going to pound him, I think. So
we just saw back-to-back weeks. Colts week, they literally just ran the ball. The last week, Brady threw it 51 times. It's a week-to-week thing. You got to guess. But if you guess right, you're getting the Fournette ceiling game or the Godwin ceiling game.
But it's also the key is not about guessing and being right. The key is guessing and being on the side, I think, with the lowest ownership. And then when you're right, the amount that you will get from it. So I'm curious to see where the ownership all shakes up because I think more people could be on Leonard Fournette this week. I'm very curious to see. And if they do play that style game, you're not expecting as much big plays. So then what are you expecting? Maybe a little bit more Gronk, maybe a little bit more, Chris Godwin. One thing that I think is played in Gronk's favor is he's been hurt a ton during his career, and then he took that whole year off, and I think that just rejuvenated his career a bit. So it's good times for Gronk, and overall, it's going to be a fun week in general. We haven't looked a bunch at the running backs, talked a lot about tight ends, and we talked a lot about the quarterbacks and some of the stacks that I just discussed. But I think it's going to be a good week at the quarterback position. Just got to figure out which one is the right path for you.
Yeah, on FanDuel, I think it's a little more open. More decisions. Taysom 7-7, a little more expensive than the DK price tag. And then you have the guys that we talked about. Josh Allen's at 8-8, Tom Brady's at 8-2. Title, kind of walk me through the FanDuel quarterback position here.
Yeah, I mean, DraftKings, like Taysom Hill and Lamar Jackson, the difference on DraftKings is 1,800. On FanDuel, it's 200. I think Taysom Hill's the play on DraftKings. I think it's pretty easy on FanDuel. I mean, so do you want to go all in on Taysom Hill at 7? Like all in if you play both sides like we do, and you play do you want to be 100% Taysom Hill when you can get Lamar for 200 more? For me right now, it's probably not. I'd rather 50% just on DraftKings is fine. I think Herbert, Mahomes, Lamar, Josh Allen, those 4 are the ones. Mangone said, you can play anyone on FanDuel. It's easy to spend up at quarterback. I don't really want to go 100% Taysom Hill at that ownership, so I'm probably going to play one of the big guys. Josh Allen, I think it's a Mahomes week. But another thing to mention, especially week 14 in December, you got to monitor weather. Obviously, we saw last night that was an extreme condition, but some of these colder weather games, like a Mahomes in colder weather, Josh Herbert in a dome or Justin Herbert in a dome. Now in December, I'm going to maybe just lean Herbert because it's fine conditions. If KC's up 15 or up 10, whatever, they're going to run the football as they showed last week. So monitor weather throughout. Herbert's in a good spot. They're playing in Tampa Bay. So Josh Allen and Tom Brady, I'm assuming good weather there. Lamar, even in cold weather, he's running back 1. So I'm mainly looking at the top guys. Probably not going to go Taysom on FanDuel, even though it's a fine play. It just, I don't really want my whole week to dictate on Taysom Hill.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. I mean, yes, the floor is high, but a lot can go wrong with Taysom. If they're playing from behind, he has to pass a lot. That's where the risk comes into play. Let's move over to running back. We'll stick with FanDuel, and Leonard Fournette, I think, is a great play. 7.6K, especially if you're not playing Tom Brady. If you're not playing Tom Brady at quarterback, getting exposure to this Bucks team, Fournette's a great way to do that. 7.6K. We just saw the Patriots run all over the Bills defense. The Bills defense knew that the Patriots were going to run it every time, and they had no ability to stop it. It's actually quite pathetic to see. But some other guys that are mispriced: Javonte Williams, 6.7K. He looked absolutely phenomenal. Now gets a home matchup against the Lions. Antonio Gibson, 7.4K against Dallas. I believe this is in Washington, so home game for them. Jamal Williams is 6.2K, assuming DeAndre Swift is out, which I think he is this week. If you want to go a little more expensive, Austin Eckler's 9.2K should definitely have his way here against the Giants. Just a few guys that kind of stand out. Title thoughts here, FanDuel running back.
Yeah, pretty much everyone you said is who I think is in consideration. Javonte Williams stands out the most, 6.7K. I don't know what that, Javonte Williams is a stud. I think Fangio finally realized that. I don't even know if Melvin Gordon, is he for sure out this week? Is that confirmed? Even if he's not 6'7", I still might go there against.
Sounds like he's going to be out, but obviously we got a lot of days left here.
Yeah, if he's out, that's just a stone lock at 6'7". Fournette seems too cheap at 7'6", getting exposure to one of the highest implied totals. I think that makes a lot of sense. And if you're going to spend up, I think Eckler's the one that I would go to at 9.2. Gets a really good matchup, a good game script. Joe Mixon at 8.5, I think would be all right. But then there are Gibson 7.4, Elijah Mitchell 7.4, two guys that are getting all the work. The cheapest right now, I'd probably go, because you're already locking in Javonte, who's cheap at 6.7, probably CEH, 6.5K. Clyde should be another good game script. They're about like 10-point favorites. So 6.5 would probably be the lowest. Right now, Fournette, though, and Javonte Williams, I think are very strong plays and definitely my favorite.
Yep. DraftKings, for me, a lot of the same. Antonio Gibson, even cheaper. He's still 6K for some reason, which I think is just that's like a really bad price tag. I think he's really, really strong. Javonte Williams, 5.9K. So it's all the guys that we just talked about on FanDuel, but they're even cheaper on DraftKings. Austin Eckler is 8.3K. Just bad pricing all around. DraftKings did a terrible job. Mangone, what kind of stands out to you here?
Yeah, one of the biggest price gaps that I see is I pulled up FanDuel and I saw Hilliard is 6'9" or something, or 6'7", while Zeke is 6'6", or that might not be correct, but it's $100 difference. I forget what the exact number is, but that's crazy.
Hilliard 7K and Zeke 6'9". What?
Yeah, it's wild. And then on DK, Zeke is 7'3" and Hilliard is 5'3", that was just like a crazy price gap that I saw that I was like, okay. And I don't know, like the Zeke conversation is going to be interesting on FanDuel because it doesn't feel like there's like these spend up running backs that you're just going to plug in. Now, Austin Eckler at 8.3 does feel like a great guy to put in there, but he is questionable, right? I don't know what his exact status will be.
Just one question about Eckler. Is Keenan Allen out? I know he's on the COVID list. Is he for sure out, or does he have a chance to get the negatives?
I'm not sure. And also, like, what if Eckler pops up on it, right? We have a whole week, so you never know, I guess. They have a bit of an outbreak going over there. So
then Mike Williams, like that, then this whole week just gets even more straightforward.
Eckler would just be an absolute stone lock if you have all two of those guys out. Just plug those guys in.
Oh, yeah.
Like Kamara, Mixon, you don't know what their status are. And it does feel like a week where you're not going to spend up as much at running back, or you're going to have a lot of salary just in general. So Fournette, 7.4, definitely like him a bunch. You can make cases for Nick Chubb, but I think I prefer Fournette in that range. And man, like Cordell Patterson, like he has just been printing. It feels like every week. Now last week at 12, whatever, but he's definitely someone that you just can't ignore. It feels like not that I've ignored him this year, but I definitely laughed it off a bit. And man, I just don't want to keep doing that. I think he is someone that, even at that price tag at 6'9", I'm not going to ignore him there. Like what you said about Gibson, Hoop, and Javonte Williams is definitely one of the better plays on this slate. And James Robinson at 5'8", that's a really good tag for him. And his FanDuel price tag is good too. And the only reason I shouldn't say it's the only reason he struggled a couple weeks ago. We know obviously the Rams, it's not a great spot, but Atlanta, it felt like he was chalkier and a pretty good play. He did get benched during that game for like that one fumble. And if he doesn't get benched for the fumble, maybe it's a little bit different, right? Because he had they had a really good drive and he didn't get any touchdown equity for that drive because of it. And then Ogunbowale, whatever that dude's name is, drops an easy pass that would have
Ogunbowale.
Yeah, whatever that
Madison
clown's
boy.
name is. He always ruins every team he joins. Like there's just no reason he should be in the league. He's terrible.
You know, his sister is Enrique. I don't know if you know Enrique Ogunbowale is, but one of the best. Just a story. No, what WNBA, college basketball, women's basketball fans out there.
Oh, I didn't know they were. I know you're talking about now that you say
the
that.
Notre Dame. Kobe shouted her out. She made the Ogunbowale. That's a fun fact for you guys. Someone in chat will know that. Hoop has no clue what I'm saying.
Hoop, I didn't know that Tyler picked up a new activity that he watches while he's in Texas. Don't tell me you're now a WNBA fan.
She went to my mom's school.
WNBA college sports. That's not Hoop's lane. I like to stay in my lane. I don't get outside of the lane too often.
It's not bad for DFS, but man, I could not imagine anything other than that. It'd be tough seeing. I could not.
No, I followed her. She was by my high school. Hoop, you're in the MMA streets now though. So you follow
MMA, yeah, MMA streets for sure. I will promise you one thing: I won't be in the WNBA streets. That's a lock.
I'm not either.
Oh man. All right. Well, yeah. I mean, again, I think it's a pretty. I mean, it's going to be I think it'll end up being a more of a straightforward week. I guess we'll have to see with news for at least for the running back position. It does seem like there's a lot of clear plays that you're going to go to, but yeah, it's running back is good this week. I mean, there's not some amazing plays, but there's enough mispriced plays where you'll have some plug and play guys and you'll have to make a couple pivot decision points and then move on.
Yeah. Mispriced, I think, is the best. I mean, there's mispriced guys all over the place, especially at running back. Wide receiver, though, not a very straightforward week. Like I said, like Chris Godwin, still 7.1K. We saw the upside last week. I mean, 15 receptions. If they choose to pass, he's clearly Brady's favorite target. 7.1K for me is still too cheap. Hunter Renfrow, we saw it last week. 9 receptions, I think, for 90 some yards. Likely trailing game script here against KC. I think he can rack up a ton of catches. Great DraftKings play at the top. You have Tyreek if you want to go all the way up there, 8.5K. Hasn't looked good though. I mean, he had 2 or 3 pretty clear drops in that game on Sunday night. So I don't think you have to go all the way up there. A lot depends though with Keenan Allen. If he is out, I know he's on the list. I don't know if he's one of those guys that just has to show the negative test to get back out there. But if he sits, Mike Williams, 6K, really, really strong play. Another week for Amari Cooper. You have to imagine he kind of gets back into his full-time role, a little bit limited. Last week, he's only 5.9K. Those are, I guess, a few of the guys that kind of stand out. Mangone, what are you thinking? DK wide receiver.
Yeah, it does feel like a week where you might be able to spend up a bunch at receiver. And of course, like the things that pop out the most, Diggs, Godwin, Evans. I mean, those are like the 3 that kind of make the most sense there. Tyreek Hill, 8.5 definitely could be a good option. Got to monitor that weather. It is Kansas City, so that'll be something to look at. Trying to think of that Bengals and Niners game. What's the total on that game? Do one of you guys have that in front of you? Because I didn't see it, and I'm wondering how that game's going to shake out. Because I think it could be an interesting.
I thought it was like 49.
47
I could be wrong.
Half.
Okay,
47 and a half, but I don't know if it's fully. It's not on a book that I'm looking at.
Yeah, I mean, Jamar Chase at 6.9 in tournaments just feels a bit too cheap for him, and I mean he's in that same range, right? Chris Godwin, who's there, where people might end up going to. We do have one dome game at least, right? But it's the Seattle Seahawks. Like, how excited are you to play Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf with Russell Wilson? And I mean, you guys are shaking your head. I mean,
no, I'm saying it's in consideration on FanDuel too. Like, I get it, but
yeah, it's like it's one of those things. I'm very curious to see what people do because it is a dome game, right? And those are the better games. And maybe it's a perfect get right spot. Houston's a good get right spot too. So yeah. I am curious to see what happens with their ownership for tournaments. I think that's a good conversation. Cash games, I doubt it. I think I'll just go to the other guys instead. But again, like Mike Evans is at 6'6", and you know who's sandwiched right next to him? Tyler Lockett at 6'7", DK Metcalf at 6'5". So, and it's such an easy stack to do too. I don't know what the Texans are going to do with their situation, but the one thing I like doing in tournaments is just playing easy stacks that'll work. And like, not that it'll work, but if they hit, I don't have to guess who is going to hit. And I don't have to guess playing Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Brandon Cooks. The only problem is, Hoop, and I think you've had experience with this, is it's hard to play both the DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett together because it feels like they never go off together.
Don't do it. Just don't.
It does not work. I know, but it's maybe it's just one of those you do the single stack, right? And you move on. Maybe you don't even do the run back. We don't have to do run backs. Remember, we've talked about that. So Hunter Renfrow is there at 6'1" in a spot where he's going to be trailing all game. So definitely another good option. Ayuk is going to pop again if Debo is out at 5'8". So you just definitely don't want to ignore him in this spot. If you think the Broncos are going to score, I know Javonte is a great play, but I think Jerry Jeudy still could be in play. I mean, the Lions are a team that you can just easily score on, and there's just touchdown equity there because they're going to be in the red zone enough. So I do think that is worth calling out. And then, if you want to play that Bills guessing game, I mean, Cole Beasley at 5K or Emmanuel Sanders at 4.9. I'm sure there'll be someone that's in the Discord chat saying, Emmanuel Sanders or Cole Beasley cost me because, I picked the wrong guy, because they're in that same range and people are definitely going to be looking to put them into their lineups to try to be a little bit different.
Yep. All right, let's head on over to FanDuel. Title, anything kind of stand out there for you?
So Cooper Kupp's not on the slate. Devontae Adams isn't on the slate. Justin Jefferson's not on the slate. I know Tyreek looked awful last time, but when no one else he's the last guy in the elite tier, the only one on this slate. I think 8-7 makes a lot of sense. Again, monitor the weather. The Keenan Allen situation is definitely interesting. If he plays, I think he makes sense. If he's out, Mike Williams at 6'9" would just become a stone lock. You feel too cheap, good spot. I mean, you just got to play him. After that, Jamar Chase 7-2, Lockett and DK 7-3. Like, I agree. I probably will I just really don't want to go there in cash, but they're grading out pretty well. You get the Texans in a dome. Russell Wilson's pretty cheap too. So I think I'm going to go back to Seattle in tournaments on FanDuel. The DK and Wilson stack, I think, makes sense. They're going to probably be on the cash chart because I think it makes sense, but I don't know. Jamar Chase 7-2. I feel like that maybe feel a little better. Scary Terry 7-1 a little bit. The cheapest I'd go that stands out right now, Elijah Moore at 6.3K. The running backs or tight end, we can pay down a little bit. Defense, I don't really see too many spend downs besides Elijah Moore 6'3". One other, Hunter Renfrow 6'7". I mean, Hunter Renfrow is a beast. He just keeps producing. So I think that price tag is good too.
It's an interesting position where we don't have those top guys, no Devontae, no Cooper Kupp, no Justin Jefferson. I mean, the three clear top wide receivers at this point. So makes it interesting at the position. Like the Jamar Chase stuff in tournaments, I think makes a ton of sense.
I'm gonna send Stephon Diggs a clip of you guys not mentioning his name in the elite tier, and then I'm gonna roster Stephon Diggs when he hits the like on it. That way, I know he's motivated to have a big game.
Yeah, I have him in best ball, but he's not there this year.
No, not the. I mean, it's a pretty clear top three, right? I mean,
it's just frustrating.
I think Tyreek's
really
4,
good, right? Like, it's insane. If they're just spreading the ball out so much, it's like frustrating.
Exactly.
Like, they're pounding the rock a little bit more. Like, I was just when you guys said he wasn't the elite tier, I was just thinking of the footwork video. I don't know if you guys saw that because he is insane.
Yeah. Talent wise, sure, but like you said, they just have so many weapons. Whereas it's Tyreek, it's Justin Jefferson, it's Devontae, it's Kupp, like Debo.
If he goes overlooked, though, I mean, do you think he's going to get overlooked in tournaments?
Yes.
Like, that is crazy to think.
Yeah, people have just settled in on the fact that they're spreading the ball out. Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, Knox.
They'll be low.
Like they're just
but he's low against this Tampa defense that can't stop anything, and a team that wants to pass. And they've been running more this year, but they're not going to be able to run against V to V. It's just not going to happen. Like, I don't know. I'm making an observation, right? Like,
you're talking yourself into it in tournaments. There you go.
No, as long as it's low, right? Like, I don't want to play it if it's hot. Like, I'm assuming that game's going to gain ownership, though. Like,
I do not. I'd be really so. I mean, so what? Like, so Tyreek's 8-7. I think he's the clear spend up. If you're going, Diggs is 8-2. Like, he's just in that dead range. 8-2 for Diggs, 7-2 for Chase, 8-7 for Tyreek. Like, I'll take the 1,000 savings for Chase and the 500 for Tyreek. Personally, I think that's how people see it.
If yesterday's game was on the main slate, I mean, we would have got a nice price discount because, I mean, those low numbers for all those Bills guys. But
do you think the weather they would have? Do you think it's just algorithm where it's all numbers?
I think they would have dropped it.
No, they would have dropped. Hoops, right? They would have dropped it because the algorithm doesn't.
That's what I mean.
I think it takes the weather into account.
Anyone watching literally should have been like, throw that game away, though. But yeah.
Tight end, FanDuel seems pretty clear. You either spend up or you go all the way down. If you're spending up, we have, Kelsey 7.5K, Kittle 7.1K. No Logan Thomas, like you said, if you want a full punt of position on FanDuel, John Bates is 4.6K, O'Shaughnessy 4.5K, Foster Moreau 5.2K. So for me this week, it's going to be pretty clear. It's either going up or going all the way down. Title, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I agree. I think I don't like right now because how FanDuel's pricing is. I don't think we need to completely punt. I usually do it more on DraftKings. Maybe though it turns out where I will end up doing it right now. Kelsey though 7.5 would be my favorite. I know Kittle's coming off the big game 7-1. I still think I'd want to get to Kelsey. I'm not sure if that's unpopular opinion or not, but I feel a little better still with Kelsey. Maybe that's wrong. Kyle Pitts at 5.9. He stands out. I don't love it, but like I'm just want to keep betting on the talent. The Matt Ryan stinks. They're usually down. They're throwing the ball. I like his upside there. Dalton Schultz 5.7. I think could make a little sense. Otherwise, yeah, if you want to go all the way down, I don't know. Tight end definitely doesn't seem good, and I doubt I start my lineups there.
Yep, agree with you. DraftKings tight end, I think it's probably a week where you just go cheap. It's been working out this season. Got John Bates, 3K, O'Shaughnessy, 2.9K if you want to do that. They did bump up Moreau for some reason to 4K, but those two other guys are super cheap. You have Kelsey at 7.4, Kittle at 6.9. Mangone, thoughts here?
Oop, another reason the algorithm bumped him up is because Moreau had so much ownership, and Diggs would have went down because no one would have played him with that weather, right? So, he would have just not been owned. So that would have definitely bumped him down even more in the algorithm. The first thing I noticed, and I just wanted to like that, the Bruce Arians head turn gif. We have 8 tight ends that are above 5K. Like, what is this? 8? Like, that's weird to think. And I'm not even including Waller, who's questionable. That's 9 priced above that range. And that's like crazy to think. Based on the week, though, we've talked about, there is a chance you'll have the money to be able to go up. So I don't hate some of these guys, but I don't necessarily think it's the correct play. I think Noah Fant at 4.5 isn't bad. The only problem I have with it is if I'm already up at 4.5, I'll probably just keep going up to another guy. And then that John Bates dude, he could definitely be in play at 3K and be an interesting option. But the guy I think that's really interesting, and I've talked about him a couple of weeks, and he's had some good weeks, he's had some bad weeks, but it's a good spot. I think it can make sense if you do that Russell Wilson stack is Gerald Everett. 6 targets, 9, 4, 8 for a 3.5K tight end who is a pretty good player. And against Houston, don't sleep on Gerald Everett in tournaments. I think he's a really good option. And if for some reason those guys do gain ownership, those Seattle ones, let's say you don't want to try and play the guessing game with DK Metcalf. If you don't want to play the DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett guessing game, I can easily see one of them having a good game and then see Gerald Everett also having a pretty decent game where that's enough at the tight end position at that 3.5K price tag. It's an easy way to get exposure to that game at a nice price.
I think Foster Moreau is the question there. Like if Waller's out, if people don't go back to him, I'm going to play him in tournaments. I think he's still in cash consideration. I think he's still cash consideration too.
Ownership's going to be lower than it would be if you had a decent game. Coming off a complete bust, essentially, not many people are going to want to go back there, and the price increase. So I don't hate going back to him in a trailing game script here, where they'll likely have to be passing.
Yeah, I like it.
Cool. All right, before you head on out, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. It helps us to continue to bring you guys these shows for free on a daily basis, essentially. Mangone, any final thoughts before we get on out of here? Mango?
My connection's being a disaster, so I didn't plug in my Ethernet cord. And
good timing because we're done.
Simon, I'll plug in my Ethernet cord for the next show. My apologies.
Title, any final thoughts?
Unfortunately, Justin Jefferson isn't on this slate. Thursday, I don't care what anyone's player pool says. Play Justin Jefferson. Slate should be fun. Quarterback seems easy on DraftKings. Injury news will always change things.
Yeah.
Fun slate. Week 14. It's sad. Best ball. If anyone's in the best ball streets, it's the last weekend for regular season. So should get fun after that.
Yeah, a lot can change, obviously, as we said last week. The guys we talked about here versus who we end up playing on Sunday changed. A lot of news came through. So always important to monitor the news throughout the week. We'll have shows every day throughout the week leading up to Sunday's lock. So make sure you stay tuned to the Run Pure Sports channel here on YouTube. But for the preview show, we're going to get on out of here. For Titletown, for Mangone, I'm Hoop. We'll be back next week.